violence, sexual assault, like physical abuse, sexual battering includes a wide range of behavior. Pressured sex, coerced sex by manipulation, threat of physical force, or violent sex. There's also psychological abuse, including threats of violence and physical harm. And we also here in the domestic violence movement, people talk about, you know, I hadn't been physically harmed for years, but I got the look, and I knew what that look meant. And or the phone was jacked out of the wall, and the message was sent. I just snapped that phone, I can snap it too. So it's that pattern of coercive behavior that really sets people up. When someone uses attacks against property or pets, that's another field that we have really been looking at more and more. And we have an awesome resource here in Tacoma. The Humane Society for many years sat on a domestic violence fatality review and was very interested in that connection between abuse of pets. And you know, that too sends a message. I've killed the dog. I mean, what's the next step? It's implied you are one of the kids is next. Emotional abuse. And one of the phrases that we always use in the domestic violence movement is that crazy-making behavior. And the first time I heard that, I thought, what is that? And that's where, you know, the perpetrator will say one thing, but then in public says something different. They totally leave you wondering, did I even know what was going on? It also makes you look like a nut to other people. And we often hear about when law enforcement has showed up, the perpetrator is totally calm, and the woman is the one that is very distraught. And there again, people often describe, I got the look as I was being hauled away to jail. And that look from him was, I gotcha. I gotcha. They all think you're crazy and don't even think you can get out of this. So that crazy-making behavior is another thing. Another one that I think is very, very pertinent to the work with the faith-based community is the tactic of isolation. And I was talking to my mom about that last night, and we were talking about domestic violence, and I said that would be, you know, prime example is where somebody knows that you are my support system, and they do what they can to keep me from you. And that you are my, you know, I go to church with you, so they've now wiped out you, my sisters, my brother-in-law, who would be a nice man to stand up and say, this is crap. My church, that isolation is a huge tactic.
And Dr. Kelly,
Miss Kelly.
Let me stop you right there, because one of the things that you do in an audience like this in terms of cultural acceptance, we have to breathe. When you're given that kind of information, and you just hit the church piece, and these two men right up from Tacoma Ministerial Line, you got a whole bunch of preachers in here, and first ladies and stuff, okay? In the black community, that is extremely important. So let me stop right there, because you just told them a lot of stuff. And you two are representing Tacoma Ministerial Lines, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Why don't you go right ahead, sir? Your name is?
Pastor Perter, Living Word Christian Church.
Pastor Perling?
Perter, P-U-R-T-E-R.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Secretary for the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance. Actually, Dr. Banks, our president, is supposed to be here. However, he'll be here noon. But sharing some information in regards to what has been said thus far, and speaking from a pastor's viewpoint, because of some of the things that are going on in the economy, jobless, if I can put it that way, homelessness, a lot of people are relocating from different parts of the country, coming to the Tacoma area. My phone at the church is ringing off the hook with people saying, I need something to eat and a place to stay. And you can hear in the background of the phone call some man saying, are they going to help us or what? So again, with what Dr. Kelly was sharing, and Miss Kelly, it's spreading.
But it doesn't go outside this room
for the day. Okay.
But you can hear the background of voice, you know, encouraging that individual to seek some type of assistance. So I'm saying that to say that there has to be some pressure there, whether it be physical pressure or just verbal pressure. And with the Minister Alliance and Dr. Castile being aggressive in sharing information with all the pastors in the Alliance when we meet on how we can try to address and assist those that's having domestic problems within their congregation. And so with that, I'm going to pass it to Dr. Hughes here, Pastor Hughes, because he's working on something new under the guidance of President Banks that's going to be launched in 2011 that's going to, I think, help out the community as a whole.